President Buhari condemns killing of worshippers at St. Francis Catholic Church, Owo, Ondo State.
Governor Akeredolu expresses shock over Owo massacre, urges security agencies to fish out perpetrators.
These are the most understanding act that can ever happen in society.
More presidential standard bearers emerge from political parties.
Good morning, Nigeria. Today we shall discuss the All Progressives Congress Special Convention.
Now, after several postponements, the Special National Convention for the presidential primary of the governing All Progressives Congress is finally billed to commence today, Monday 6th of June through Wednesday the 8th of June 2022. Kingsley, at last.
Well, Juma, the national chairman of the All Progressives Congress, Senator Abdullahi Adamu, has already indicated that all 23 presidential aspirants of the party are qualified to contest the primary. This is contrary to the initial indication by the chair of the Presidential Screening Committee, that's Chief John Odigio Yegun, who had indicated that 10 of the party's 23 presidential aspirants did not scale through the rigorous screening process.
And that caused a lot of stir and confusion, Kingsley, and as several lists were being bandied in some sections of the media of those aspirants who qualified and those who were disqualified from the contest. But like you indicated, the statement of the party's chairman put paid to all the confusion.
Very true, Jumai. Now, we understand that there are about 2,340 ad hoc delegates who will be participating at the special convention to elect the party's presidential candidate for next year's general elections. In the meantime, President Muhammadu Buhari on Saturday night met with the presidential aspirants at the Villa here in Abuja, urging them to hold consultations and come up with a formidable candidate before the party holds its special primary.
The president said the meeting was a continuation of ongoing consultative process aimed at ensuring a smooth and strategic emergence of a standard bearer who will lead the APC to a resounding victory at the general election. Now, this looks like a move towards consensus, Kingsley.
Well, in the words of the president at that meeting, building consensus would help the APC reduce the number of aspirants and then, of course, come up with a formidable candidate and, in that sense, scale down the anxiety of party members over the presidential primary. So it remains to be seen if the APC presidential aspirants will heed the president's call to build a consensus and agree to the emergence of one of them as the standard bearer in the presidential race next year.
It's quite a tall order, Kingsley, as there has been general clamor for a level playing field for all aspirants in the APC. Well, we'll see how it plays out as we discuss the APC National Convention on Good Morning Nigeria today. You're welcome to the program. I am Jummai Yusuf.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I join my colleague Jumai to also welcome you to the program. We're beaming live, as always, on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority and from our headquarters studios here in the nation's capital, Abuja. As usual, we'll have our complimentary segments in the course of the program, and this will include business and newspaper review. But now, here is Tessie Omeri, who has the highlights of the morning news. Good morning, Tessie.
Good morning, Kingsley. Hello, Jumai. Good morning, Nigerians, and here is the morning news. President Muhammadu Buhari has condemned the heinous killing of worshippers at St. Francis Catholic Church, Owo Kingdom in Ondo State. He mourns the dead, condoles with their families, the Catholic Church and the government of Ondo State, charging emergency agencies to swing into action and bring succor to the wounded. Meanwhile, the leadership of the Christian Association of Nigeria (CAN) has condemned the attack and killing of several worshippers at the St. Francis Catholic Church, or Lua Street, or with a call on the security agencies to apprehend the perpetrators of the dastardly act. Media assistant to CAN President Pastor Adebayo Olajide, in a statement, said the act is condemnable, outrageous, and satanic. CAN says there is no explanation for such unprovoked attack and assault on a place of worship. And following the gun attack on St. Francis Catholic Church, Owo, which left many faithfuls dead, Governor Oluwarotimi Akeredolu cut short his trip to Abuja to visit the scene, describing the church invasion as a brutal massacre. Meanwhile, the management of the Federal Medical Center, FMC Owo, is appealing to residents of the area to come for blood donation to save more lives. President Muhammadu Buhari.
Shooting, they even entered inside the church, they were shooting.
It's quite unbelievable that somebody will come and the intention was to kill everybody in that church. And those who were running out, they were being shot from outside. Those who were inside were being shot from inside. And they threw 2 dynamite to blow up the altar down to the sanctuary.
It's the most tragic event. Horrifically, this is the most devastating act that can ever happen in any society.
And we pray that may God rest the soul of the departed and grant them the fortitude to bear this loss, and away from that to politics. President Muhammadu Buhari has promised to provide the desired leadership in the ongoing consultations and consensus building towards ensuring that the governing APC retains power in 2023 by recording its 3rd consecutive victory at the polls in best interest of the nation. This was while addressing the National Advisory Council of the party, whom he tasked to bring their spheres of influence to bear in the process of ensuring that the formidable candidate of the party emerges for presidential election.
Spheres of influence and expectations. You similarly possess the collective ability to ensure our victory at the 2023 polls by strengthening the stability and unity of the party. My charge and appeal to you all, therefore, is to reach out to your various spheres of influence to actively promote the spirit of consultation and consensus building so that a formidable candidate for the 2023 presidential elections will emerge from the convention. Our students do not expect less from us.
And ahead of the APC Special National Convention for the party's presidential primary, the FT Police Command has ordered the diversion of traffic along the roads leading to the Eagle Square, venue of the convention. A statement by the PPRO of the command, Josephine Ade, urges motorists to take alternative routes as the deployment by the command is characterized by heavy visibility policing, as will be witnessed at various checkpoints within the city center of Abuja. And news from other political parties indicates that Professor Christopher Omumolen from Edo State has emerged as the presidential candidate of the Accord Party ahead of the 2023 general elections.
I have taken up this challenge because I believe that Nigeria as a country needs a prosperous, a forward-thinking, a dynamic, and an empathetic leader to steer the ship of Nigeria.
The newspaper reviewer Bayo TV is in the studio. Good morning, Bayo.
Good morning, John. Thank you. Good morning, Kinsley. Good morning, Nigeria. Thank you.
Let's take a look at the front page of the Nation newspaper. Above the nameplate, you have how gunmen invaded church and killed many in a war. Akeredolu weeps during visit. Buhari, others mourn. Details of that story you find on page 7. Fashola hands over houses to Kano beneficiaries. Bad loans. Mortgage banks, MFBs, that's microfinance banks, get 15-day deadline. 11 held in drug seizure at Abuja and Lagos airports. President greets Kumuyi. Consensus candidate, our best option, Buhari insists. APC will win in third straight time. That's the writer to that. Now, inside the paper, page 8, Akeredolu to Lawan and Bello, these are two of the aspirants, step down. Umahi denies stepping down. I'm still in race, says Yaya Bello. Tight security around Eagle Square. That one comes out as Eagles Square. Eagle Square without the S. Petrol freight rate rises. Kola Abiola is PRP presidential candidate. Kola Abiola, that's the son of late Chief MK Abiola, PRP presidential candidate. Abia preaches peace at anniversary. You mind?
Yes, on the Punch newspaper above the masthead, we have 20 power plants suffer major problems. Blackout to worsen. You find details on page 20. Primary, Buhari meets governors, party chairman, stakeholders, police, tighten security. With riders, Galadi Muslims Adamu as APC chair insists on punishing Tinubu. Party inaugurates subcommittees, chairman, delegates arrive Abuja. You find details on page 6. On a side page of the Punch newspaper, 3 die as Lagos Ministry Police hoodlums demolish 200 buildings. You find details on page 4 and 5. National carrier gets license today. Local airlines fault process. Details on page 19. And like history from the Nation newspaper, the headlines for the Punch also says gunmen disguised as worshippers massacre over 34 in Ondo Church. With riders, OAU alumni ex-chair, wife among the dead. It was like a war front. That's coming from a survivor. Attackers arrived when we were ending service, shot from different angles. That's coming from the piece presiding over. It's a Black Sunday. Akeredolu, Afenifere, Buhari, Oshibajo, governors, Tinubu, orders mourn. You can see the picture story there at the scene of the incident and some of the victims in the hospital. Quite a sad Sunday yesterday.
Yes, indeed, Jumea. Our hearts must go out to the parishes of St. Francis Catholic Church in Owo, who had gone to church and were almost finishing the services before they heard gunshot. In fact, one Reverend Father said he advised the parishioners to come up at the back where they could take refuge. And the criminals went in there and were shooting randomly at people and even drop a dynamite within the church premises. Unfortunately, a lot of persons were killed and several others were injured. They were all evacuated to hospitals and were given treatment. The government were said to have gained entry using dynamite but shot worshippers on site. A resident of Owo, that is the area where the church is located near the Oloros Palace, said that the attackers ambushed the worshippers. They didn't even cover their face. Governor Rotimi Akeredolu says that we are deeply saddened by the unprovoked attack and killing of innocent people. Our hearts are heavy. Our peace and our tranquility has been attacked. We shall commit every available resource to hunt down the assailants and make them pay. President Muhammadu Buhari has also condemned the attack. He has asserted critically that we should not allow criminals to dominate the environment. He has condoled the Oloro of Owo, the St. Francis Catholic Church Parish, and the people of Ondo State, asserting that security agencies will have to track down these criminals and bring them to justice. Meanwhile, That's not about the attack there, but also across in Niger State. Street urchins who have constituted themselves into gangs have killed one person in a street fight at Mina. The group, always referred to as Yandamba, were recently released on a court bail, and after being held for several street fights which were reported several months ago. The latest was that the free-for-all fight happened at Angwang Daji near Limawa area. The police has arrested 2 suspects. 2 days later, there was another reprisal alarm which happened about the stadium junction. The police were quick in going there, and 3 suspects were arrested, including the one who was alleged to have stabbed and killed one man earlier on in the week. Other reports indicate that power generation in the country is reported to have dropped below 2,000 megawatts. The Punch says that its findings shows that there is perennial power outage experienced because of the drop in gas. 20 gas power plants are underperforming. They are either gas plants that are generating below capacity or have been completely shut down because of lack of gas. Due to this scarcity of gas, some are underperforming and therefore are not able to produce. You might ask what happens to our hydro. In the case of hydro, it is said that Jebba and Shiroro Dam are also suspected to be either having lower generation or one challenge or the other. On the political scene, the Independent National Electoral Commission says that it will no longer store sensitive electoral material in the vaults of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Inec Chairman Professor Mahmoud Yakubu says that the CBN will no longer be in charge of election material beginning with the Ekiti election, which is scheduled for June 18th. He says that materials will be moved from INEC headquarters then through to state offices. He explained that INEC was experimenting with better ways to secure its material. He also indicated that INEC has also responded to the application from the Economic and Financial Commission to furnish it with anti-graft data regarding the bank and financial details of political parties. The chairman INEC also assured that about 430 million ballot papers for 2023 election will not be printed abroad, but they will be printed here in Nigeria. And the All Progressive Congress primaries is in the works, but leadership reports
that's what we're discussing today.
Okay.
We can't go into that.
The cat out of the bag.
Yeah,
but the latest from that is that there have been indication, the president has indicated that a flank of the, in 2013, several parties came together to form what is now the All Progressive Congress.
Yes.
So if a faction that is the ACN should produce the presidential candidate. And so this has led to shockwaves within the 23 presidential aspirants. But you will have the details when you discuss it elaborately in your program.
Yeah, we'll be getting more information from that. Thank you so much, Baya, for coming. Thank you for analysis this morning. Thank you. We'll take a break. When we return our conversation and to kickstart our conversation on the APC National Convention, here is correspondent Joseph Osen.
Large crowd like this trailed the All Progressives Congress presidential campaign before the 2015 general elections. Political analysts opine that the choice of Muhammadu Buhari as the party's presidential candidate with a reputation of integrity attracted many Nigerians, positioning the party to win the presidential election in 2015 and later in 2019. 7 years down the line, the party is in dire need of another charismatic and credible candidate that will succeed Muhammadu Buhari as it gears towards retaining power in 2023. APC presidential aspirants have been moving across the country soliciting support of party faithful. After a series of postponement, the APC is set to conduct its presidential primary at a special convention slated for Monday 6th to Wednesday 8th of June 2022 at the Eagle Square, Abuja. While the chairman of the APC Presidential Screening Committee, John Oyegun, initially announced that 10 out of the party's 23 presidential aspirants did not skate through the rigors of screening, the party's national chairman, Abdullahi Adamu, however, stated that all aspirants were qualified, which means all 23 aspirants will contest the presidential primary.
So, no aspirant has been disqualified.
President Muhammadu Buhari, on his part, met with the APC presidential aspirants with a charge to them to meet and produce a consensus candidate for the party. Where would the pendulum swing to? Guests on Good Morning Nigeria will speak on issues in the build-up to the APC National Convention and the party's chances of producing a formidable presidential candidate for the 2023 general election.
Thank you very much, Joseph Hassan, for that background. With us in the studios to discuss issues around the APC Special National Convention. Let's welcome His Excellency, Engineer Abdullahi Sule, who is the Governor of Nasarawa State and also Chairman of the Media and Publicity Subcommittee of the APC Special National Convention. Your Excellency, pleasure to have you with us this morning.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Also here with us in the studios is Professor Kabir Mato. He's a professor of political science and a member of the APC Special National Convention. Professor Mato, glad to have you on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
We also have in the studio Aliu Audu, his convener, APC Rebirth Group. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
All right, so gentlemen, once again, it's a delight to have you with us on the program. Let's begin with the governor of Nasarawa State. I mean, many would say here at last, the APC, it's kicking off its special convention to pick its candidates for next year's presidential elections. Why this so late in the day?
Well, I think before I start, let me use the opportunity actually to send my own condolences and condolences of the people of Nasarawa State to my dear friend and brother, His Excellency Akeredolu SAN, the governor of Ondo State, over the very, very unfortunate incidents in Owo. We are with the people of Owo, and we are praying for peaceful return to normality in the whole of Ondo State. Going back to your question, why so late? If you notice, APC actually had gone through a lot. The beginning of the issue is when we had the change of leadership, when we had a caretaker committee replacing His Excellency Oshomole, the former chairman, and the National Working Committee. So the My Special Committee that came in realized that we didn't even have a proper register. So we started with registration. Then, the way it goes. After registration, we had all kinds of reconciliations to make. So several committees were set up, and I'm lucky to be part of some of those committees. Submission of the report was a problem. It took a while. At the end of the day, we had to extend the tenure, of that committee. Then after that, finally we had the convention 2 months ago or so. At the end of the convention, we were able to produce this gentleman, and with the new guidelines on elections, then the time limit was very, very tight. So everything we are doing, from what you can see in APC, is actually running against time. Some of the reasons were far beyond us. I do believe very strongly some of the reasons were avoidable. You will have been able to avoid them. Nonetheless, like you said, we are finally there. We are now ready to have our own special convention. We had all the various primaries, from House of Assembly, House of Representatives, Senators, governors, and now we are getting ready, by the grace of God, by tomorrow, midnight, hopefully, we'll be able to announce this is our presidential candidate.
Yes, it's time for the APC convention, but does the APC fully understand the expectations of Nigerians on them?
I strongly believe so. And with due respect, APC came on three-legged situation at the time with the promises that these were the things Nigerians needed and these were the things we are going to provide. At the time, this country was in a turmoil when it comes to issue of security. And I'm telling you that from experience, personal experience, not just what I read in the news or the papers also. I was the managing director of Dangote. And I was always traveling to all these places because they were our biggest markets. Kano, Maiduguri, Kaduna, Ibadan, this and that. I traveled everywhere. That's why they had to buy a small plane for me. So that's what happened. So during the period, I knew what I experienced in Kano. I knew what I experienced actually in Maiduguri. I knew all those kind of things. So that's the time this country was in that turmoil. So we said number one approach was going to be security. Then we said the economy of the country. We are going to work on the economy in the country. And of course, one thing that our president is known for is his incorruptible nature. So we say fighting corruption in the country because corruption was a huge problem for us. I'm not saying it still not is, but it was a huge problem. People were caught in the aeroplane with money. People were caught here with money. So it was just everywhere. And then fighting corruption means punishing those that are found wanting. So those were the kinds of things that the government came up with. So going back to say expectations is to go back and say, how did we address each one of these issues? Have we addressed them adequately? Are there areas where we should have done more? Are there things that we shouldn't have done? And things like that. So if we stated these reasons why we were coming, and then we came and we took each one of these items and addressed them, you can give us percentage. You can say, not like what you said, some aspirants scoring 0. I'm sure we will not score 0 in any one of these. So, but that is exactly what we did. We pick each one of them and we address them. And from what you can see, really, the president keeps addressing each one of these issues. And the presidency is a team. It's not just one person. It consists also various executives at the regional level, and everybody is taking some of these items and addressing them. So if that is the case, indeed, we know what Nigerians are looking for.
Well, let's take a dive into some of the aspects around the special convention. Already we are getting reports of some traffic chaos around the city center because Eagle Square is marked in the center of the 3-arm zone. Why the choice of 3 days, 3 working days, Monday, Tuesday, and perhaps Wednesday, for this event, considering that the federal bureaucracy is located in that particular area?
Yeah, if you notice what happened is, if not for the extension by Inec, our event will have been last weekend, we'll have had it. So we actually planned it for the weekend. But you can see, being the ruling party and of course the Popular Party with 22 governors, you expect that it's a party that will receive a lot of attraction. So as a result of the attraction, you've seen the number of aspirants we have. And up till now, at one point they said reduce them by 10, and there was a lot of uproar. They brought them back. So we have 23 people. So when you have that kind of attraction of a party, then, planning also for everything will take a little bit longer. Even screening of those 23 aspirants for the presidency, took a little much longer. So the argument you will have probably is to say, why don't you go around the stadium, around the side and have it, just like the opposition has had. But it will have been a similar thing. People will say, you have blocked us going to the airport. We miss our flight. We did this, So this one that you are not blocking anybody from travel. So the good thing about the city center is that there are alternative routes. Abuja is well spread with alternative routes. So all the roads have been there. If you had gone to the stadium, something like that, with the kind of numbers of people, over 2,300 delegates, you expect, there is this. And really yesterday we had the meeting, and at the meeting for the planning committee, it looks like it is not going to be as chaotic as people are thinking, so they are going to reduce. Maybe every governor is even just entitled to bring in 1 or 2 vehicles, that's it, and then there are even discussions about all the governors just going into one bus to take them, because in most cases it is the VIPs, that cost part of the community, with due respect. Yeah, so I'm talking to the professor because they are the VIPs, so so I think that's what it is. Yeah.
Yes, talking about delegates, would you say the president not, assenting to the Electoral Act and the Section 84, subsection 8 will in any way affect the convention taking place today?
I don't think so, really, because you see, it is even more independent when you have these elected delegates. When you have, and I'm telling you from the heart, when you have the ESCO or so, they were really in most cases people who work directly with the governors. So they are likely going to go directly where the governors want them to go. So, but when you talk about these elected delegates, in most cases some came through election, through some kind of congresses, or through some kind of arrangement with stakeholders, if it is consensus. So they don't have the direct control of maybe any one individual. So they are a little more independent. That's the exciting part of this one. So not everybody, one of us is happy that it is only these 3 elected delegates that are coming. We are all hoping that it will have been everybody, the statutory delegates. So like for me now, I can vote. I will just go in there. The president himself cannot.
So you can influence.
Huh?
You can't vote, but you can influence.
Yeah, since you are a delegate, I know I can convince you to vote for whoever.
I'm a delegate.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. We'll return to you because of the conversation. Let's bring in the other 2 guests who are part of this conversation. We earlier introduced Professor Kabir Mato. Professor Kabir Mato, of course, is a regular on Good Morning Nigeria. Has been with us here in the studios and also from Kaduna. We have Aliyu Audu, who is the convener APC Rebirth Group. Aliyu Audu, let's welcome you first to the program and then we'll throw our question to you presently. But back to Professor Kabir Mato. Professor Kabir Mato, contextualize for our viewers the intensity of the succession struggle in the APC.
Well, thank you very much. It's to be expected. The APC, as you know very well, came into power about 7 years ago after a protracted struggle by the political class in the opposition, which culminated actually into the creation of the party through mergers by, I wouldn't say smaller political parties, by political parties that were subsumed more or less by the larger-than-life, status that the People's Democratic Party took when it governed this country for a period of about 16 years. So you will expect that today, 7 years down the lane, and this is the first time that APC sitting president is expected constitutionally to hand over power to another individual. Of course, the competition ought to be, as tight as it is, and that's why perhaps you see an array of 23 distinguished, Nigerians, from various sections of the country, digging it very hard, in order to secure the mandate of flying the flag of the party in the 2023, presidential election. So the size of the head, they say, is obviously the size of the headache. It was a lot more easier for APC in 2014 and 2015, to go to Lagos, do the convention, come up, with an elected candidate who eventually became the president. And similarly is the case now with, the opposition People's Democratic Party. Professor Gambari will always say that the view of the road will change as you move from the driver's seat to the passenger, or from the passenger seat to the driver's seat. Now APC is in power. It wants to succeed itself. The opposition is on the other side. It's very strictly looking at the nitty-gritty of what has been done in the last 7 years and what it's about to do, praying very hard for the party to possibly commit one minor infraction or the other, so that it can capitalize on the advantage, that it will obviously have, so that it captures power in 2023. So the stakes are really, really higher than it is in any other political party in this country, and therefore you will expect what you are getting, today, and going forward. I'm sure, just like His Excellency the Governor of Nasarawa State rightly said, by the end of tomorrow, hopefully, a lot of these issues could have been, politically resolved, either through the preferred consensus or through, the electoral process, which I personally would prefer, to see take place. And then at the end of the day, you will have a flag bearer. And then the party now will go back and begin to strategize and see, how to approach the elections come 2023. So the stakes, like I said, are very, very high, and the expectations, of Nigerians also are so high. Especially given the, very palpable, situations that we have, across the landscape of the country. So the stakes are high, and of course the expectations of the citizens are also very high. But I do believe that at the end of the day, an amicable resolution through the electoral process will be arrived at, and a candidate will emerge.
The APC practically flew to power on the wings of fighting corruption, security, the economy, like His Excellency said. On the scale of 1 to 10, would you say at 7 years after, the APC has delivered on some of its promises and sort of satisfied the expectations of Nigerians?
Well, I think the party has, successfully delivered substantially on all the promises that it has made to Nigerian people. You see, in political science, we have what we refer to as the national question. And the expectation of every citizen is that when you have a national question, and then you provide political, economic, or social solution to it, and that is the end of that question. No, the national question is an ongoing process. An ongoing process in the sense that as you try to address one problem, another one opens its, rears its ugly head. So that's basically the problem. Yes, if you take it sectorally, from the economy to the issue of corruption and security, you will find that, just like His Excellency did rightly say, prior to 2015, the huge chunk of this country was really in a very terrible security situation. Now, the nature of that security challenge that Nigeria faced at that material time is not necessarily the same with the type of security challenges that we are facing today. I mean, Abuja, before you come into Abuja in 2014 up to 2015, it will take you 2-3 hours between Suleja to come to Abuja because of the massive roadblocks and other security, checks that Nigerians were. And so it was across the length and breadth of this country. Bombing, in various places, etc., etc. So that has successfully been addressed. Today, even the headquarters of, the insurrection in the northeastern part of this country is relatively calmer than it used to be in 2015. So we will obviously say that substantially that form of security has been, addressed. Yes, we have seen also the rearing of, insecurity in other forms, banditry, kidnapping, mass shootings, etc., etc. Now, if you're talking about mass shootings, what happened yesterday, is despicable, it's unfortunate, but also remember what happened in the United States of America, despite its level of security, sophistication, and advancement in terms of economy, the serial killing that has been taking place. So, what I'm saying in essence is that the national question is an unending question. As we try to address and block some of these problems, others also rear their ugly head. So I will substantially say in a scale of 10 that obviously the party has been able to achieve more than 50% of all the promises that it has made. And that is not to say, if a government will obviously come and meet a huge chunk of problem and try to address it, and that's the end of it, then the essence and purpose of government will no longer be there. problems will have to continue to arise, and as they arise, it's the responsibility of the actors to deploy the right political and economic broadmanship in order to be able to address this problem. And I think that is the situation that we find ourselves today in Nigeria. Yes, the party has done very well. Yes, the party is doing well, and I expect that the party will also, going forward, be able to do more in order to address the yawning challenges that the nation faces at the moment.
All right. Thank you very mumuch, Professor Kabir Mato. Let's bring in now Aliyu Audu, who is the convener of APC Rebirth Group. Malam Aliyu, is the APC likely to be reborn after this special convention to pick its presidential candidate?
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me join His Excellency to extend our condolence to the government and people of Ondo State and Nigerians in general. And I wish to use this opportunity to tell every Nigerian that we have reasons to, be hopeful that tomorrow is going to be better. And we have to keep praying, and we have to try as much as possible to be as upright as possible. We need to be good citizens and ensure we cooperate with the institution to ensure we protect life and properties of every citizen. The primary responsibility of any government is the welfare and the security of the citizens. However, there are processes and intrigues involved in providing this. It's just like the customer who goes to the shop to pick up a bread. He doesn't want to know how much flour is put into processing, doesn't want to know how much heat is the oven set at. He wants bread that he can afford, which is what the government is supposed to provide for the people. As a party in government, we cannot truly promise to serve the Nigerian people if we continually give excuses for not being upright, for not doing what we are supposed to do. The large size of the party is not an excuse. There are processes to every operation. There are processes to every programs or projects set to be done. If we stick to this project, the only way we ensure peace and unity is incentivize good doings and ensure that bad actions are penalized so as to serve as deterrents to others. But as far as we keep pampering those who do bad and discouraging those who do good, we are not preventing, any of this. Justice, fairness, equity is essential to peace and unity in any society. You cannot do right by everybody. Like they say, human wants can't be, are not insatiable. But as far as, by all, the government or any institution is seen to have been fair, to be just, then the government will be in a position to be able to penalize those who have done wrong. We have processes that have been put in place. I will continue to say, I would rather the Inec didn't shift the dates, because as a government in power, we owe ourselves and Nigerians to show that we know what we are doing and we are committed to getting things done rightly, planning appropriately and sticking to plans. Like His Excellency said, some people were disqualified and there was an uproar, and then the question is, what was the essence of disqualification? If there are merits to their disqualifications, then the screening committee should have kept to those values so that tomorrow we can't keep moving, the rules or changing game just to satisfy certain people. That is exactly how we play ourselves into corners. I am hopeful that by the end of this convention, just like we had in Lagos, we will be able to have 23 aspirants who will understand that they have given their all, starting with 100 million naira, which isn't by any means any small sum. Then they have traveled around the country. At every step in time, every one of them knows that only one person is going to emerge as our presidential candidate. And all they probably want is just the opportunity to test the
their strength, test their capacity, test their ability to convince delegates to vote for them. And if that is given, then we would have strengthened democracy. I totally agree with Prof. by saying the party, the government has achieved so much considering where we were coming from and where we are. However, the average Nigeria does not feel this, not because we haven't done much, but basically because there have been other global challenges that are way beyond our control. Like you see, in developed countries, America, England, Canada, France, they're all going through all of the challenges we are going through. But we must be very, very appreciative of the initiative taken by these leaders who came together in 2013 to form APC and to put an end to destructive 16 years rule of the PDP. Else, I mean, one cannot imagine where we would have been considering the challenges, global challenges we have had to face, if not for the prudent leadership, the incorruptible leadership of President Muhammadu Buhari in the last 7 years. However, we have one task and one thing alone to do, which is to strengthen democracy, which is to show, like the president has always said, the power must return to the people. And the only way to do this is to ensure that the pool of making decisions as to who govern us in any society is broadened, so that there is inclusion, there is in the decision making, so that those who represent us are not reduced to the decision of a certain few who will probably put their interest over the collective interest of the entire Nigerians. The greatest pool we have that give a fairer representation of the Nigerian state are the elected delegates. We might have issues with the fact that statutory delegates are not allowed. I mean, I'm aware of the judgment that came out regarding that. I don't know what position the party is going to take as far as that is concerned.
Yes. Ali, will come to you in the course of the program so that you can explain more what you're trying to say about the rebirth of the APC and as a group. Let's now come back to Governor Abdullahi Saleh. Consistently, the president has called for the APC to put its house in order so that they will not fall on the sidelines just like the PDP did before. So what do you make of the president calling for a consensus in the party to ensure that you have a candidate that can go for the election and win, because the PDP has brought out its candidate already? So where is the president going to swing in the APC?
Well, every time the president mentions about trying to come out with a consensus arrangement, the president is looking at the rankers that usually come with the other two options, direct or indirect. In Nigeria, most politicians don't lose election. It's because somebody rigged them out. It's because somebody, so that is the nature. And unfortunately, most of our elections, whether primaries, even what level for a councillor, the politicians will go there with talks and everything. I must win. And if I don't win, then trouble. So the president is fully aware of this. And I think Nigerians are fully aware of this. And that is the reason why most of those talks also and the rest are brought by the same stakeholders who are going to carry out consensus. So that's why the president is, always recommends, that why don't you, as the major stakeholders, because they are the ones who to sit down and come up with a consensus arrangement. Instead of going out there to cause all this confusion, the party came out with these three options. So when our party, the APC, came out, they actually came out with the three options of elections. And the very first one, in order to remain peaceful, and that is the consensus. It is when the consensus does not work, then we say, okay, why don't you do the indirect? Because the indirect now comes up with less number of people. If the indirect doesn't work, then we say, all right, throw it out to the open, But believe me, the risk involved in the last one, the direct, is usually more than the indirect, and the indirect is usually more than the consensus. So that's the reason why you see the president does it. And the reason why especially the governors believe and respect the president is because when you look at the gentleman, you will see that whatever he is doing is not for any personal benefit of his. He's doing it mainly for the unity of the party, for the peace in the country, and for us who say we are going to fight insecurity. You don't want to cause another insecurity. Exactly like Professor Marto mentioned earlier. As a government, when you come in, you solve one problem and then the other. Now, while in Borno, my good friend Governor Zulum was actually inviting us to come and celebrate in a place, Donetsk or so. There are for the first time, in 7 or 8 years, they are harvesting happily. All around Lake Chad, people are now farming, and so they are experiencing peace in the area. So they are very happy with that. Can you say the same with Kaduna? Kaduna, that was in those years peaceful, no problem whatsoever. Zamfara, nobody heard about anything Boko Haram or this. But now, like he said, another set of insecurity came in. So, and I think that's really what is happening. So you don't want to expand your front, of insecurity to start fighting. I think that's the whole essence of this consensus.
Earlier, you restated the fact that as a governor, you would not be voting at the special convention.
Unfortunately.
You also said the president himself, the president will also not be voting, because otherwise they are statutory delegates. We all have been through what the National Assembly tried to do with the Electoral Act 2022. After shooting themselves in the foot, they suddenly realized that there was an omission in section 84, subsection 8. They pushed the amendment to the president. Up to this moment, there is no indication that the president has given his assent to that bill. But last week, there was a decision by the Federal High Court sitting in Kano. I'm not quite sure whether it was an injunction or a declaratory order. I'll go over that again, because there's a difference between injunction and a declaratory order. To say that section 84, subsection 8 does not preclude statutory delegates from voting at a special convention. Is the party aware of this? And if so, what is likely to be its reaction?
Well, you see, as far as this election is concerned, we are guided by 3 major documents. Number 1 is the Constitution of the country. That's superior, and we have to abide by that. The second part is the Electoral Act, which is law. You have to make sure you abide by that. And finally, you also have Inec Guidelines. Now, you cannot seem to violate any of these 3 in whatever you are doing. So sometimes people, I'm not a lawyer, I'm an engineer, but I've been in this now for a while to understand some of these things. Now, if that is the case, then you have to come and look at it and say, all right, they say you can do that. INEC has a guideline that whatever are the number of delegates that will vote must be submitted to them 7 days before the time. So these delegates who are going to vote tomorrow, these delegates must have been submitted at least 6 days or 5 days or 10 days earlier, something like that. So if some judgment comes in and you have not yet submitted and you want them to come and vote, which I would love to, then you are in violation already of the INEC law, and anybody can take you to court based on that and deal with you. So I think the APC is making a wise decision by saying that we are not even going to touch that. We are not going to go in that direction, especially that the matter definitely will be appealed. So if it is being appealed, then it's still on a hold on or wait. And I think that's exactly the direction. So that's why the party took the wise decision that while the judgment is there, we are still living by the fact that we have not met, the requirement of the INEC guidelines. Because if we do that, if we just say, let's go ahead because we are the ruling party, we can do it. Let's go ahead and get everybody to sign. And then opposition takes you to court and say that, they are in violation of INEC. And so INEC is, these are the time for INEC. INEC is a big power now. You don't want to violate INEC right now.
Even delegates are big people now.
And they are not as big as INEC.
Okay, Professor Kabimato, talking about the convention that is taking place from today through tomorrow, we've heard from other primaries that have taken place, financial inducement, for the delegates. We've heard of so much money, and it's a feature that are featured in so many primaries that have taken place. How is it going to play out in this convention with the APC? Are we going to hear about what happened with the other parties, or what is it going to be? Just tell us.
Well, I wouldn't say, because I'm not an aspirant and I'm not a money bag anyway. But be that as it may, I think the tragedy of the PDP convention, as has been widely reported, especially in the social media of inducement of delegates is, to say the least, very unfortunate.
Not just PDP.
Yeah, well, at least it's when you are talking about presidential election in Nigeria today, you are talking basically about PDP and APC, and the news that is all over the place is that of the PDP convention, where thousands of dollars were said to have been paid to delegates in order for them to be induced to vote along certain party line. I don't want to believe that that's true, but if that is actually what happened, then I will say it's counterproductive, it's undemocratic, it's unfortunate, and the APC therefore must be very wary and careful of what has happened. If that has happened in the PDP and the PDP is going scot-free with it, it's simply because it's a party in opposition and it has a very large following, especially within probably the social media space. People are sympathetic. It's always there. In every political system, there seems to be some kind of sympathy, for the underdog when matters of high competitive tendencies are in place. So they might have survived it. The APC cannot afford to go that line. If it does, then the hit really is going to be really on it, and I hope it will not. I believe it's not likely that it's going to happen like that. And you see, this informs the decision of the National Assembly earlier on to try to cast, in the Electoral Act, that elections of delegate or candidates should be through direct, primaries, not minding the actual security and cost implication of that particular exercise, and also the fundamental breach on the human rights of members of the party or the political parties themselves to decide on which option of elections to undertake. And I think that's one area that both politicians and students of history and political science must have to engage in serious study and seeing how to give it a very decisive approach on how to not stop it, but obviously minimize it. Otherwise, just like the president said when he was addressing, I think the APC governor some times ago, that they should not allow money bags take over the candidature of various positions in the political party. As long as this inducement continues, then of course it reduces this technically disenfranchises a large chunk of Nigerian population that are not materially wealthy. So I want to think that the best way to go is for the APC and other political parties that haven't gotten to this level yet to try to take a cue and learn some lesson from the reported cases that we had over the PDP convention, so as to severely minimize this efforts and influence of inducement on the pattern of voting behavior of delegates. It's been said all over the country today that people said they wanted to go to if they knew, they would have gone to the university to read bachelor's degree in delegate studies. I don't.
Professor Kabebato, let's point this out. Last week, after the PDP special convention, we had a conversation on that convention, and we also had guests who are PDP members who were with us, and at some point they were casting aspersions on the APC, and we had to say, well, wait a minute, there's no APC member who is on the set with us and can respond contemporaneously to the allegations that you are making. But I do recall asking on that occasion, so look, there were visuals showing EFCC officials present at your convention ground. What happened? And they said boastfully that yes, EFCC officials were there, but that they left with their cages empty. There was someone who was caught, and they also threw a challenge to the EFCC and other anti-corruption agencies to also be present at the convention of the other parties. But I think the issue about delegate corruption that we have seen isn't with regard to the PDP special convention. It had to do with the entire process of the primaries, whether it was the State House of Assembly, National Assembly, governorship. In some cases, there are photographs and videos being circulated on the social media. And of course, typical of us Nigerians, people were trying to make fun of it that the biggest job to do now is to be a delegate. And so the pressure on the Naira. But Kabebato, thanks a lot for the points that you have raised. I'll come back to you presently. Aliu Audu, let's get your view one more time on the rebirth of the APC. Some persons have argued that, as Professor Mato said earlier, the contention for the presidential ticket of the APC is this stiff because it is the governing party, and of course you're having the president run out his tenure by next year. But some persons have argued that it is actually much more than that. It has to do with the control of the soul of the party. That when President Muhammadu Buhari leaves office next year, can the APC stick together? And some persons are saying that the litmus test for that could be the outcome of this convention.
I have personally always said that 2023 election is APC's to lose. You know, we have done so well in the last 7 years that by the time the scorecards are out there, you know, we've gone through it as a movement within the party, as you know, imagine political leaders who try to see things differently. We have done our own internal evaluation of the performance of the government in the last 7 years, and we are more than convinced that we have a lot, you know, to convince Nigeria as to why the APC has to be retained at the center and even take up many more states. But what we want to be able to do is to go into the election with our, you know, putting our best foot forward. One way to ensure this is to make sure that for every position we come up with the best candidate that we can possibly have. And the only way to ensure that is to provide a free, fair, credible, and contested, you know, election, which is what the rebate has always been about. The rebate started when the World Congresses, you know, started after the registration, and we realized that there were a lot of impositions in the name of consensus from world level all the way. I mean, I sat on the appeal committees for world level and for the local government level, and I listened to party members make complaints about how, you know, they have reached a decision and how a different decision was imposed on them. And this was one of the things we said. We might not be able to stop everybody from, you know, coming out to take advantage of a system. The least we need to do is to ensure we provide a level playing field for everyone. And if that is done and a candidate emerge, naturally the other aspirants who do not feel hard done will find it easy to embrace the result, embrace the outcome, and work together to ensure that the party succeeds itself at the center and build on the achievement of Mr. President so far.
I just want to add, Professor Mato, I would like you to weigh in here on the view that what we are seeing now is actually a contestation for the post-Buhari era in the ultimate governance of the party itself, and then also of the presidency.
Well, possibly that is, but I think we've gone past that now. APC is now more of an institution, you know, that is beyond any particular individual. I strongly believe in that. A party that controls 22 states out of 36, and of course the presidency, by any stroke of imagination, will be said to be really an institution that is deeply rooted in place. Yes, the outcome of the primary elections will be very critical the way forward, and I think that's one of the reasons that informed the decision of the 11 northern state governors to come out forcefully 2-3 days ago to say, look, this is our direction, this is what you know, not necessarily having it conventionally written to say after the north it shall be south and so on and so forth. You don't have to write that, you don't have to sign it. I want to believe that it's a gentlemanly agreement that you know, a lot of them decided to hold on to it, and to me that's one of the fundamental you know, statements that holds a great future for the party, you know, rather than any one particular individual, be it the president or any of the governors, to hold on to agreements, to see what is ideal, to see what is reasonable, to understand it and work towards it. In my view, it's a fundamental, you know, binding force that will keep the party beyond 2023 rather than any single individual who is a member or a leader in the political party. So I think all that people are saying, yes, of course, the Buhari phenomenon has always been there in Nigerian politics from 2003, since he emerged up to the time he won election in 2015. But you can see the circumstances that gave rise to his victory in 2015 was also arose as a result of the amalgamation of forces, different political forces from across the country. So if that is the case, then I think for APC to continue to be a national party, it will, like I said, to a great extent be dependent on the outcome of the primary elections tomorrow, but beyond what any particular individual or the status of figuration of any one particular political individual is concerned. So I see a bright future, really, and just like my colleague here is saying, sometimes yes, consensus is an acceptable way political ascendancy within political systems, but people have this a feeling that it's always preferable when a contestation takes place, despite the security and other issues that His Excellency obligingly has mentioned. But in this case, if the party is able to narrow down the constitution, or even the 23 of them will go to Eagle Square tomorrow and then speak to the delegates, and at the end of the day, one of them is elected, through a free, fair, and transparent electoral process. I think that will give a lot of credence, to the whole exercise and the political party, much more than for them to simply just emerge and see we have agreed that it is Mr. A or Mrs. B that should carry our flag in the 2023 elections. I did say, Kingsley, remember that the stakes in the APC are much higher than you have in the opposition party. In 2015, if we could recall, it was very easy for APC to go to Lagos and do that. It was one of those things that the nation kept talking about. Comparable to what the PDP did. So I will not want my party to repeat the same mistake. I will want us to also go to Eagle Square tomorrow with the candidates, speaking to Nigerians, speaking to the delegates, and at the end of the day, you have one person that is elected, and I believe that all those who will not be victorious or who will not be elected or will not be the winners at the convention would agree with the process, and at the end of the day it will be easier and simpler for the party to be able to put their heads together moving forward.
Indeed, Professor Kubimatu. Let me come back to His Excellency Abdullahi Saleh. Part of the greater number of the electorates are youth and women. Indeed, the APC has set a precedent by a woman clinching the APC gubernatorial ticket in Adamawa. A lot of women are asking these questions. If the APC wins the election in 2023, what is there for the youth and women? As we are talking about a rebirth of the APC here, will the women have more, part of the 35% affirmative? I'm a woman, I'm interested. That's when I'm asking this question. Will we be able to show face and be part of governance and, get more positions in office for us to participate and contribute our quota to the governance of Nigeria? Will the APC do that in 2023? What are expectations for women and youths in Nigeria?
Thank you very much. I would like to do that, but he mentioned something key about the sitting of the governors and taking that decision. I don't know if you mind for me to say something about that before I go to this answer, because he mentioned that. First, let me use the opportunity actually sincerely to apologize to Mr. President about what happened in that process. You need to understand what happened in that process. What happened was that after meeting with Mr. President, and we said we were going to sit down and discuss the issues and also suggest, we do understand, like he said, Mr. President, the presidency actually in APC is no longer about one person. It's an institution. It has already established itself as an institution. I made this comment on channels the last time when they asked me, do you have any one person that can face Atiku? I say Atiku is a father to me. I respect him. I love him. I know who he is. And I know he's a formidable candidate. But Atiku Abubakar is going to face an institution. He's not facing one person. He's facing 22 governors. He's facing all this battalion of senators. He's facing, so that's what he's facing in APC. So it's similar to what we did. So we sat down as northern governors, and I said, to be fair to our southern governors, let's not even involve them in this. Let's discuss. And amongst us, we have 3 governors. We have 3 northerners. 2 of the governors. One of them was even present during the meeting. And we say, what is best for this in order to keep the party together? That we have to suggest to Mr. President. We are not saying this is what Mr. President has to do. That's why I say I have to apologize to him. We say we have to suggest to Mr. President because he told us exactly what kind of person he was looking for. So when we sat down and debated among ourselves, including one of the gentlemen, who was contesting the governor of Jigawa State, who is also an aspirant for presidency. So we came up with the idea after the various debates, some of them as supporting this, some of them supporting that. We said we have to agree as a people, so we agreed that the best thing is if we rotate this presidency to the south, but let it remain between us. Let us seek for an appointment with Mr. President to go and see him. And I was actually selected as one of the 3 governors, the governor of Plateau and Kebbi, to go and see Mr. President and say, Mr. President, we sat down, this is what we are thinking. What do you think? That was the intention. Then Mr. President just came back from Ghana. And unfortunately, they started looking for an appointment. It was the same night he was also meeting with the aspirants. Before we got that, boom, I saw in the social media. And they took the signatures that we did for attendance and they matched it to that one. I said, oh my God. I was waiting for the meeting to go and see Mr. President when that happened. I said, what is this? Breaking news from social media. I have never seen that kind of breaking news. So I was blown away, totally blown away. And really that's what happened. So you can imagine if Mr. President will feel slighted, that at least if you have this, why don't you discuss with me? So that is what happened. And that's why since yesterday, all the northern governors have not been the same. We've been trying to find a way. We were saying, this is us and this is our reasons. And then once we say that, it's up to Mr. President to say that. Coming back to...
I'm sorry, Excellency, before you take on Jumai's question, while you're still on this, are you suggesting, therefore, that the resolve of the northern governors to suggest to Mr. President for a rotation of the presidency is now in abeyance, or?
No. It's not in abeyance. As gentlemen, if we took a decision, we hold on to that decision. But that decision is only a suggestion to Mr. President. That's what I'm saying. We were supposed to go and suggest to him. If we had suggested, and Mr. President say, no, I don't think this is a good idea. We just leave it right there, dead on arrival. And if he says, you know what, you guys have saved me. This is a big relief. You have given me something to hold on to. Then we will be raising our head and walking very tall and say, aha, we did a very good job. So this is exactly our line of thinking. And that's the reason why I said 3 of us were selected to go meet him. Unfortunately, we couldn't. So when we say it's in abeyance, we're hoping to see Mr. President today anyway on the subject, and we're hoping to discuss it. And by the time we give Mr. President our reasons, he may also give us his other reasons and say, no, I don't think so. I think it should be left open. He may decide to say that, and he will give us his reason. And the way we respect Mr. President, nobody is going to say, no, Mr. President, we don't agree with you. So that's it. Now, coming back to her question, I don't want to run away from this woman thing, so she doesn't think that I'm running away. And I'm actually a victim of that. So let me tell you, because in my state, in 2019, I contested actually with 10 other people. I was the 11th. Before even the primaries, we were about 20. So then it came down to 11 that bought the forms, and we contested. And there was no woman, all of us. Now, in 2019, none of those men actually decided to, sorry, in 2022, none of those men even showed any interest, so they said we'll continue to support the governor, to do a good job.
You got a woman contest?
I got a woman now to contest. I got a woman, and to be honest with you, I had never met her in my life, okay? And they say she was a doctor, she was contesting. And I said, this is interesting. A northern woman, showing the girls the strength. And that's why they asked me to call her and see if she was going to allow me, so that I could just go for affirmation. I said, no, this is good business. So to tell you how I want to encourage women, I said, no, this is good. Let her come and contest. Let us see. We had 736 delegates. And I said, let me even get 400. She gets 336. All I want is to win. I'm not interested in saying that I must have this. So and we went in with open mind. And we had a very big joke, by the way. Because maybe due to her own experience in this, usually contestants or aspirants will ask the delegates to be gathered in one place. So the person will go and talk to them and say, yeah, I want to do that, I want to do this, I want to do that. So I gathered my delegates in one place. So I was coming to see my delegates, and I was told she entered to address the delegates. I said, this one, she didn't actually I was the one that gathered my delegates, and she entered. And the security said, no, we're going to take her out. I said, no. This thing about women affirmation and this, we better take it easy. So before they now say that I'm not interested in 35% for women, so allow her to address. So she addressed them. She addressed them and did a wonderful job and this and that. So after I went, I had to go and find somewhere to sit and wait for her to finish. So when she finished, I went and entered, and then I addressed them. So that was the first time some of them ever saw her. And the first time I saw her ever in my life was on the day of the election. And when I came, and she came in our northern tradition, she knelt down and greeted me. And I really felt, this is a very wonderful woman. Let's do that. And I said, okay, let's go ahead and have the election. We had the election. She got her own votes. I got mine. I was the first to get up to go and congratulate her for actually participating. So it's to tell you that in APC, we truly believe in this women thing. And I think it's good for us because women are the majority voters. And whatever we do, we include women into it.
Wonderful.
Yes, and the same thing with the youth, by the way.
In addition to what His Excellency just said, where 60% of the cabinet is dominated by women in Kaduna today. There are about 15 commissioners, 8 of them are women. So just like he said, the APC has a tendency to do that, and the young people, I don't know, not even the Nigerian definition of youth, which goes to 45 or 55. No, between 35 and down. We have substantial number of them also serving. So I think the interest of women and youth is really captured, within the framework of, the All Progressive Congress.
That's good news to me. We'll take a break now. When we return, our conversation will continue. Don't go away.
Morning, Nigeria. We're live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Our 3 guests are still with us in the studios discussing the APC Special National Convention, the outcome of which will be the presentation of its presidential candidate in next year's general elections. I would like His Excellency Abdullahi Sule, the governor of Nasarawa State, to respond to this. An observable trend in Nigerian politics is the role and influence of governors, and sometimes it's an open campaign that governors would want one amongst them to succeed the president. What accounts for this? And considering that sometimes there is a dim view of the performance of some governors.
Yeah, first and foremost, I think I answered this question on hard copy, and then I answered one lady of channel also approached me. I don't belong to the category of governors who believe that one of us must be the president. Personally, I don't believe, and I don't hide it. Sometimes, in fact, the president may not be anyone who ever held political appointment. It might be some good gentleman, some professor somewhere, some doctor somewhere, I'm telling you honestly, who has done so well based on their profession also, that will come on and do it. Now, going back to why governors, the reason why a lot of the governors have an edge over this is, one, the exposure that they have constantly with the political party, the exposure in the country, everything that they have been doing, and the fact that they have been the major supporters, of the political parties and the people, especially if you have a governor who has performed credibly, you will come across this. So that's why the governors always have the edge, and the advantage of this. But to say that it has to be a governor or something like that, I always say no. I don't believe in that, because For instance, we have had, with due respect, President Obasanjo, who just actually came out from detention at the time, and he came out, and the time they said to keep the unity of the country, the best person to be president at that time was this, and then he was made the president. President Muhammad Buhari actually had ever, maybe in most cases, due to his mind, had tested and tried and felt that this is not even his game, and decided, you know what, leave it alone. And again, he wasn't a governor, an elected governor, and people believe he had everything that it takes to be president. And then people went to him and pleaded with him, pleaded from what I was told, before he accepted, to come and do that. Look at what he did. He wasn't a governor, and because to me, Professor Matu had given us 50%. In I don't know in which area. Maybe in some areas he gave us 90. I don't know. But but the truth of the matter, is that President Muhammad Buhari really has done well. With all due respect, forget about the fact that I'm APC. If he didn't do well, I would have found a very polite way of putting it. But he did well. We are having other challenges, and the other challenges we are facing is making it look to some other people, especially the opposition, that keep hammering on it. How about bandits? How about stopping this? How about, so people are not looking at the good side. It's like when somebody talk about the economy. I went in some line, and I started. I said, I came from the capital market. Look at where the capital market is today. Look at the index. Look at this. Somebody said, that's not the economy we are talking about. We're talking of the economy. What is there? I said, in agriculture. Today we are not importing this. We are exporting. We are doing this in agriculture. He said, that's not what I'm talking. What am I getting personally? What am I? He said, that's what I'm talking. So those are the kinds of things, that some people actually rate you based on the
micro-analysis.
Yes.
I just wondered, Professor Kabir Juma, if you don't mind, we keep hearing consensus. It's been in the papers, and maybe when the governors meet the president, they might also throw up the subject matter. You've already expressed your view, but some persons have tended to describe this whole idea of consensus as actually gunpoint consensus. That you put a gun to the person's head and you say, look, either you agree or otherwise. And some aspirants may be averse to going against the grain of what the president has indicated. We saw that, for instance, in the National Convention, where you elected your new National Working Committee members to say, oh, okay, you had a sea of aspirants, for instance, and all of a sudden they say it was consensus, and then it boiled down to the gentleman who, of course, is now in the saddle. Is this consensus arising from true negotiations, or if it is gunpoint consensus, that will be some element of blackmail?
Well, thank you very much. Before I get to that, Kingsley, let me just add a little what His Excellency has said about the powers of the governors. You see, there are no true federal systems on the surface of the earth that are the same. They may be similar. The Nigerian federal system is structured in such a way that the head of the units of the federation, in this case the state governors, will have to exercise maximum powers. They determine who becomes the president, they determine who becomes the councillor, because that is the configuration of our federal structure. Some of us have been very close to the National Assembly. As far back as 2003, members of the Senate and the House have always worked towards eroding these powers. And we told them in all honesty that you need to reconfigure the Constitution if you want to change that. And so in summary, the state governors will continue to be powerful because the Constitution has so made them to be very, very powerful. And that's why when the National Assembly was crafting this electoral act, it shot itself, like you rightly said, in the foot. In trying to disempower the governors, they made the governors, in fact, more powerful. Be that as it may. The issue of consensus, like I did say, it's an agreeable means of leadership ascendancy in any political environment. But the gunpoint consensus you are talking about, which I'm not aware of actually, is what several other people, have expressed tremendous fears about as far as the Nigerian scenario is concerned. If in the APC we chose to deploy the consensus option when the National Working Committee membership was constituted, that's a different ballgame. They're not going to elections. They're not going to another elections. They are there, the chairman and all of them are there. But we are now going to a convention to select or to elect the person who is going to carry the flag of the political party in a national contestation. So we have to be very careful about that. And I'm seeing, as a student of political science, I am, with all sense of humility, a professor of comparative politics. We have seen this severally in different areas. I will personally prefer that at the end of the day, aspirants are allowed to face the delegates, so that at the end of the day, the process, all this accusation, even if it is going to be a consensus that is genuinely arrived at, will not be understood by especially the opposition and a large chunk of the Nigerian voters as such. So it's always preferable to have this contest take place, minimizing the areas of rancor, so that at the end of the day, that physical, alteration of going to vote for one person or the other is taking place, and at the end of the day, you have someone who will be declared the winner, and perhaps that winner will even be congratulated by the person who, will not be the winner in that election. So I will personally prefer electoral contest.
Okay, Governor Comstones, wait, something that I would like you to maybe comment on is that anybody can be president, it can be a technocrat, maybe I might not have held any political office, but the price of the form of expression itself, 100 million. Do you think it is possible for somebody from that sector to even think of coming out to buy or contest or do anything?
I grew up in this country.
Out as a student of political science?
Well, I grew up in this country at a time, when the Second Republic, I first, went to election. I first cast my vote in 1979 as an 18-year-old. And as a young person leaving secondary school, going to the university, my preference was the People's Redemption Party. In this part of the country, most young people actually, because of the ideological inclination of the party. And we saw how PRP was able to raise its funds to carry out its activities. It was raised by party members. Now, even the president, when he joined APP in 2003, up to NPP, substantial quantum of resources that he used in executing his political aspiration were actually contributed by the common people. So if my constituency sincerely believe, and you see, it is only in Nigeria that you have individuals aspiring for political positions. All over the world, it's a group thing. All over the world, it's a class interest. It's a group interest. Members of particular groups will come together and agree that they needed to pursue political power in order to address certain issues. And then they select one or two persons from among them and put them ahead. So if someone outside that does not have 100 million naira aspires, of course it cannot just be the poor professor in the university coming out to say I will raise one. But if the intellectual community, and that's why institutions like ASU should come in, to be more progressive in their thinking. Why don't we float a particular professor that we believe is so nice? ASU can easily use 100 million naira and buy forms and even provide funds for campaigns. This is how elections are conducted all over the world. It's only here that few individuals, money bags will come out and display the resources.
Okay, Professor Mato, thank you very much. We're getting pressed for time now. Malam Aliyu Audu, what should the APC avoid at this special convention?
It was very easy for Mr. President, who had the support of the majority of the electorate in 2015 at the Eagle Square when he was being sworn in, to say he belongs to no one and he belongs to everyone. That was at the back of the legitimacy he got from that contest in Lagos. If you remember clearly, they were the likes of the current PDP presidential candidate, Governor Rochas, the late Saminda Isaiah, and former Governor Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, who all contested for presidential ticket in 2014 in Lagos. It was keenly contested, and President Muhammad Buhari emerged victorious. And on that, with that victory came legitimacy, so that no certain group or persons would sit and had I been allowed to contest, I would have been able to defeat this person. It is upon this that we, as APC, concerned stakeholders, say that if you know what happened at the convention, I would like to use this opportunity to equally let us as a party continue to do what we have asked to do. Mr. President, at the end of the national convention that we had 2 months ago, said that the aspirants that were asked to step down be refunded their money. As we speak, it hasn't been done. We have our National Working Committee, we have our National Chairman who sits with Mr. President almost every day these days. I would like Mr. President to ask him if that has been done. We need to keep to our words. We need to be honorable in all we do. That is the only way we can ensure that there is peace and unity, fairness, equity, justice. And I must commend the northern governors for their decision. It is not legal for anyone to be denied the opportunity to contest, but as a country that is as we are, we must put into consideration the unity and peaceful coexistence of this. We have a lot of issues that are not economical, they are political, they are hinged on certain people believing they've been marginalized. We as a unit, we as a society must do our best to ensure that there is sense of inclusion, there is sense of togetherness, which is what I expect the APC to do. And I know the individuals and stakeholders of the APC, regardless of what the law says, understand the need that after 8 years of Mr. President, it is only fair that the southern part of the country is allowed to produce the next presidential candidate and by extension the next president of this country. That is what I would expect the APC to do.
All right. Thank you very much, Ali Audu. Your Excellency, let's get your closing thoughts on this very briefly. What should your party members expect?
I think they should expect fairness, expect equity. I'm calling on everyone to cooperate with the leadership of the party and ensure that we have a very, very peaceful convention, so that at the end of the day, we have something to be proud of and we can say we are fair, we are just, and we have done the right thing for Nigeria and for Nigerians.
Okay, Engineer Abdullahi Sule, Executive Governor of Nasarawa State and Chairman, Media and Publicity Subcommittee, APC Special National Convention. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much.
Professor Kabir Mato, a Professor of Political Science and member, APC National Convention. As always, we thank you for your input.
Thank you very much.
Ali Audu, Convener, APC Rebirth Group. Thank you so much for coming on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure having you. Our Sport Decks will have some stories in the world of sports. Don't go away.